This is an overview of the case North and Marra Developments from 1981. In this case, there are two corporations, one being North's, formerly trading as J&J North, and Marra Developments Ltd. North's is a member of the Sydney Stock Exchange. The facts of this case are as follows. In 1954, Marra became a public company. Prior to 1974, the balance sheet and market price did not reflect the true value of the assets of Marra. From December 1972 to February 1974, various members of North's, acting as Marra's stockbrokers, discussed with the directors the need to bring market capitalisation into line with the real value of Marra's assets. In January 1974, North's advised three things. First, the shareholders should be informed of Marra's current position with respect to assets and income. 2, Marra's capital should be reconstructed. And 3, it should take over or merge with Scottish Australia Holdings Limited. Marra's directors accepted all of these suggestions. On February 18th or 19th, there was a discussion between the chairman of directors for Marra and North's, where North's advised that shares of Marra would be worth in excess of $15 each. North's was asked by Marra to buy shares of Marra until such time that the director had completed arrangements with other directors. By mid-March 1974, North's had purchased on their own account close to 20,000 shares in Marra. They subsequently sued Marra for the remaining balance of $140,000. There are multiple issues in this case. The first is that Marra considered itself vulnerable to takeover mainly because its net asset value per share was slightly more than the existing market price, and North's advised a restructuring and merger with Scottish. North's kept on buying the shares of the company over time in order to increase the price, resulting in a merger with Scottish, and North's later claimed remuneration for their services provided, but they did not state anything about the arrangement to support the price of Marra shares on the market. The second issue is in relation to the plans that North's presented and were approved by Marra, where the share price would be established on the Sydney Stock Exchange at $16.50 per share or thereabouts, and the merger with Scottish must occur on a share-to-share basis. Marra's share values were to be increased by North's buying the shares so the takeover could take place adequately. The third issue relates to the court finding that Section 70 of the Securities Industry Act 1970 aims at protecting the market for securities against activities which will result in artificial or managed manipulation, not only to curb colourable or fictitious transactions. Transactions that are real and genuine, but only in the sense that they are intended to operate according to their terms, are capable of making a misleading impression to the market. Those transactions that are found to be colourable but may mislead or create a false market price of the shares will be considered a violation of Section 70. There must be genuine supply and demand by the parties to the stock exchange. The fourth issue is in relation to 3 documents that were given to the Sydney Stock Exchange by North's that were deemed misleading. The price of the shares at $16.50 each were referred to as the sale price, market price, and market value. These, unaccompanied by any disclosure about the nature and extent of North's operations in the market, could misguide the reader regarding the significance which should be attached to the price of these shares. The fifth issue relates to the actions of Marra, who, with the help of North's through purchasing shares, resulted in an enhanced market price for Marra so that the merger with Scottish could occur. This, however, contravenes the provisions of Section 70 of the Securities Industry Act 1970 and is therefore illegal. An illegal act cannot justify any benefits to be accrued, and as such, North's cannot claim any remuneration for an illegal act. As can be seen from this diagram, the purchase of Marra's shares by North's is an example of a corporate transaction, whereby the corporation North's is purchasing shares of Marra on behalf of Marra. The purchase itself was a legitimate financial transaction. What is called into question is the purpose of the transaction, which was to boost the share price of Marra to appear as a thriving company and influence the merger of Marra and Scottish. This is what the High Court of Australia agreed with the Supreme Court of New South Wales and the Court of Appeal about. The court held that North's appeal was found to be not favourable, not because the agreement which they were relying on is a violation of Section 70, but because the conduct of North's themselves was illegal by contravening Section 70. Aside from the statutory violation, there was also a common law illegality. The court found that the main object of North's in buying the shares of Marra at the premium price was so that they could deceive the public into believing that there were buyers of such shares on the stock exchange, when there was no one but themselves, Marra, who bought the shares under the name of Norths. On these grounds, the appeal was dismissed by the High Court of Australia and no compensation was awarded to Norths. The ratio decidendi can be found at section 42 of the case, where it is noted that it is enough to breach this section that the activities are calculated to create a false or misleading appearance. It is not necessary that they do in fact create that appearance. Section 43 denies Norths from recovering compensation as their performance on which they rely involved illegal conduct. This case demonstrates how public corporations can transact with one another, but must do so according to statutory and common law, and must act according to their rights and duties.